Hey, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Tarot Flow Show, everybody. The Tarot Flow Show, where synchronicity is the star. I'm your host, Alison Pickering. I'm in Los Angeles, California on this beautiful end of summer day. It is Labor Day here in the United States, so that's Monday in September. And it's my pleasure, as it always is, to introduce my co-host who joins us outside Stockholm, Sweden, the adorable, the brilliant, and the fabulous Kefri Skarabus. Welcome,
Thank
Kefri.
you, Alison.
How are you doing today?
Fun to be here. I'm excellent. Thank you.
You are excellent. I am missing you already. I had a chance to go visit my friend Kefri recently
I'm
in
missing
Sweden.
you also.
And we had known each other for 4 years, just studying each week in our little study group with our other friends there. And first time that we had a chance to kind of meet each other from the chest down, so to speak. Today, I'm very excited to talk about our first, shall we say, a cold guest, somebody who we haven't known in another context, or we haven't had a chance to do any pre-calls with or anything. She just said, hey, I like what you're doing. I want to do it with you. And I said, well, come on down. And so this is from the Washington, D.C. area, the unconventional business coach. And she is a venturesome person because she's jumping into this crazy foray without any warning, except seeing our prior shows, I guess. So you know what you're up for, Piper. Welcome to the show, Miss Piper Watson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Kefri, Alison, I'm so happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of life do you lead? Work do you do? All that good stuff in the D.C. area?
Oh my gosh, I live a very unconventional life. I like to walk the road less traveled, and I coach other people to set up businesses that can support a similar life as well. So I like to say that I'm the business coach for unconventional people with unconventional businesses that there's no template for. And we're trying to figure out, hey, I'm someone that does things differently. How do I fit into this traditional business world? I think that's why everybody starts businesses, is they want that freedom, that flexibility to do what they want to do. And I very much do that in my lifestyle. So this is a perfect place, a perfect example of doing that. I'm just curious about things, and I like to connect with people and see where that leads.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Tell us what experience you have with tarot or other mystical things or oracles or any of that.
Absolutely. So I have just always had this sense that there is something bigger at work. And I've always followed intuition, and that's really led me down some very magical paths. And I have a little bit of experience just learning about tarot. And I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at all. I think we're all always learning, but I really enjoy just having that extra guidance as to, what my next steps might be. It can feel very validating, either to validate an intuition that you already have about something. So I've dabbled a little bit in tarot. I've only had a couple of readings. I have some wonderful intuitive mediums that I work with a couple times a year, just to kind of give me that extra sense of direction, which I always think is so nice and fun, just to see like what happens and how things unfold.
It is fun. So it's one of the things where it's a really, really serious thing, but I call it serious fun because you're playing with this. Well, you're working with synchronicity. So you're working with the coincidence of the cards falling where they fall and doing what they do. And it never ceases to amaze. That's the thing, is that it's always got something. And you're like, how does that work? And nobody really knows, except that we are appreciative to the process, I think, because it always brings something, at least something worth talking about. And so it's worthwhile doing that. Kefri, in terms of synchronicity, I know that you're all about the synchronicities in your life, but can you speak a little bit to why tarot is an interesting medium and what it has meant for you?
It is interesting because it can both be used to do readings for other people, but it can also be used for introspection for yourself, actually. And you can do very deep introspections with the tarot cards, actually. And we have been discussing the wonderful author Marcus Katz before, and he has invented something that is called a gated spread. And a gated spread is a spread which you do over several days, and you have to complete certain moments before you can go on with the next gate. And things happen inside of you. It's a deep process, and you will learn things about yourself that you probably didn't know, actually.
Yeah, it
Indeed.
seems like it's a nice complement to something like astrology,
Yeah,
where that
it
sort of
is.
paints a picture of how you are in
Yeah,
the world
yeah,
and
yeah,
what the potential is for things to happen at different times and seasonalities. But tarot seems like a nice complement to just take that introspection even deeper and think about
yeah, yeah,
certain things very specifically in the context of your
yeah.
life and your
And
development.
and also certain cards of the tarot cards are connected to planets and positions in horoscopes as well as star signs, actually.
Interesting.
Exactly. And so in that way, it gives us a chance to, I think of it also as, we operate in time, and astrology has so much to do with time. It's all about the movement of the planetary bodies and where you are relative to them at your birth and where they are now relative to then. And, there's a lot to learn there, which is kind of, this is what it is, and these are the influences on you. And then tarot is similar but different in that we're kind of going along in time, and we're living our life, and whatever time is, that's a whole thing to unpack unto itself. But then once in a while we have a chance to pause and kind of go deeper, and that's what we're going to do right now. Is we take a moment and we see what the symbols are that are popping up in this moment to give us a chance to read this moment in time and see, you're a pivot coach. Is this a time for us to pivot in a particular way? Is this a time for us to get a different perspective on something? Is this a time for us to see things in a new way because they are offering us a new analogy or a new symbol to consider it with, something along those lines? And so it's a lot, and it's different from oracle in that oracle is something that you kind of, you pick a card, and so you pose a question and you pick a card and you see what it has to say. You look at the guidebook, and that's your message for you, and you kind of reflect on that message. Tarot has an internal structure similar to astrology, like you pointed out. And so there's both the element of the time and the synchronicity when you lay the cards down, as well as what their inherent kind of meaning unto themselves would be. And then what are they combined with each other? And then the position, and that, it gets mathematical. And as Kefri says, very fractal in terms of its multiplicative, what it can symbolize. So we're just getting real heady and crazy. And then you can also play around, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to have a little reading, see what it says, right? So this is the medium where play is practice and practice is play, and all of it builds toward your expertise. We're going to be doing at ALISONPickering.com and some Facebook groups for some kind of light talk and travel and tarot talk and travel is a little bit of what we do on the Facebook world. And then we're as you want to get into the academy with us, we can go deeper into learning tarot and things like that. So let's do a quickie thing right now, and that's going to be looking at the major arcana. So let me go ahead and bring this in, Piper, and see what we're looking at here. There's our Fool, who is the main archetype of the major arcana, the main archetype of the tarot in general. He is the soul traveler. They are the soul traveler, because this is not a person. This is an archetype within us. It is the something very high within us that comes down to experience life every once in a while. And so there are 21 others for a total of 22 other cards: the Magician, High Priestess, Empress, Emperor. All of those, the first row is kind of like what we come into life with. Let's just say our internal capacity. The second line is a bunch of different lessons of adulthood. The third line could be states of consciousness. This is vastly oversimplified. What I'm going to ask you to do, Piper, is to I've got the 22 majors in front of me here. And you give me, and I'm just shuffling up just like Kefri's doing on his deck on his end. I'm going to shuffle them up right now. And would you give me a number between 1 and 22 and just see what card it is we're going to unpack today?
I'm called to 21.
21. All right. Well, that makes it easy for me because I could just take the last one from the bottom. I don't have to really
Exactly.
count it out. And the strengths card. Let's take a look at the strength,
Ooh.
please.
I have to tell you something really funny about that card is my husband and I dressed up as that
Ah,
for Halloween one year.
well, that might be your costume again this year. What a great idea. So which one of you was the angel and which one was the lion?
I was the angel. He really wanted to be the lion.
Oh, very good. Did he look like the Wizard of Oz, like Bert Lahr or something like that? That's good. Let's take a look at that strength card. So what we're doing right now is kind of an itemizing. It's a very left brain process, and to look at some of the symbols that are in here. And so what we can see, of course, is that we have a human person depicted there. She's depicted as feminine, and she's depicted as either closing or opening the mouth of this lion who is very much under her control. You can look at the tail is between his legs. And so even though this is a ferocious beast, he is in a cooperative and a relationship of cooperation, collaboration, and non-threat, shall we say, to this person, this entity, this angelic figure with the sign of infinity over her head, the white garment, which indicates purity, the red roses, which indicate passion, and that animal, that lion, is representing the passions, it can also be our shadow. It can be our violence. It can be all the things that we have to learn to really wrangle as adults and figure out how to manage. Kefri, what else can we see or know about that strength card that's important to keep in mind or just be aware of?
The astrological correspondence here is the star sign of Leo, and that is ruled by the sun, as many people know. And actually the lion, the Leo, is the sun. And the angel or the lady, or what we will call her, she is the divine energy that is getting friendly with the sun, because the sun is the channel for that energy in this world, actually. And here they are together, actually. And also there is a secret symbol of this card also, and it is a snake, actually, because strength can have a shadow side also, and it's also corresponding to the snake in the Garden of Eden in the Adam and Eve story, and so on. And also we have the eternity symbol here, like we have in other cards, also showing that this divine energy is actually, that's an eternity. It's always around, actually. So
Thank you. And the snake, of course, is reference to the Kundalini energy that lives within us, very attached to our sexuality and to the power of the sexual function and the energy inherent there. Piper, we're being very analytical about this, but maybe you have a more holistic impression of this card. What do you think of when you see this card? And what made you pick it as a Halloween costume, which I think is brilliant? And somebody's going to steal that idea. It might be me. So
I don't know. I think that I really liked what you were saying, that there's like a collaborative nature, a cooperative nature to this, which I really feel like that definitely resonates with me. It's also funny, like I'm a Leo rising, so there's parts of that really resonate, of like learning how to harness strength without, it's like the give and pull of like being strong and not being overpowering, and like sort of the delicate balance between all of our natural and inherent masculine and feminine energies. That's kind of what jumps out at me.
Interesting. And then Leo rising is always struggling with kind of needing to be the center of attention versus already having the energy and not, needing to push it so hard. That's a thing with Leo rising as well, and that kind of depends on what's your sun and how all those things play together as well. Similar to how cards do in a reading then. So another analogy to the astrology. So thank you very much. Let's take a look now at some of the minor players, shall we say, in the arcana of the tarot. So we've got the major arcana with the Fool as 0 and these other 21 majors, which are like the journey of the soul. And then the other cards of the tarot are these minor cards, and this is kind of more like day-to-day life, and it also has an analogy or a connection to the Kabbalah in that you have the worlds or the olams, where there is the world of inspiration and fire way up high, where we can just kind of communicate with if we're receptive, but we can't really control. That's the wands level. If we like that idea well enough and that comes to us, then we care about it. Then that's the cups suit, the suit of emotion. If that cared about thing is going to be carried out any further into reality, it will probably need to be planned for with the rational function and the more linear aspect of our nature, and the decisions that must come about if you're going to carry this into the flesh, so to speak. And that's our pentacles suit, the flesh being the 5-pointed star, because we have our 5 senses, and that's how we navigate in the world. That's our currency in the world, is our senses. And that in that way, we are also subject to time, which is, as we look at those knights on the bottom, they all have some movement to them, except that this Knight of Pentacles is quite slow, because it takes time for that crop, for example, to come into fruition. And so let's take a quick look at our wands, the suit of fire, ambition, intuition, and spark, our values, what drives us. The cups is what we feel about, what our calling is, our connections to others, that emotional realm. If we can control this realm, if we can be disciplined in this realm, we can do a great deal in terms of our ability to use the powers of our subconscious to make our life what we would desire it to be. In terms of the swords, this is what we would use to do that controlling. And this is a rough set of images here, because when it comes time to making decisions, it's always kind of this yes and that no. And there's a certain amount of cutting through that has to happen, as well as some possible cruelty to others and ourselves with our words and our communication. So it's important to watch that. And then in the pentacles, it's about the earthly realms and our relationships, our contracts, our obligations, and what we can build, for example. And then you can notice in that 10, for example, that the coins are arranged in the shape of the Kabbalistic tree of life. Kivri, would you mind, before we jump into our reading, can we just Piper that image of the flower of life, tree of life, just to do a quickie show of that, because we were talking about how in our suits,
do you want the one with the cards, with the tarot cards?
No, just the colors, I think.
The colors.
Yeah,
there
thank you. And so we're looking at these olams, we were looking at these suits, and I just wanted to show quickly, when we were looking at that strength card, we noticed that the sky was very golden, and that golden sky is very much in the middle. It really anchors the tree of life. This is an image of the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is a wonderful kind of, and let me just underrepresent it here, say that as a filing system for all things spiritual, this is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And for that reason, and not only for that reason has it been around for so long, and to call it a filing system is to really give it not much what it really is, but let's just call it that, because it can serve us as that in our mind, so to speak. But as I digress, there's that yellow, there's that center. That's where the Star of David comes together. The energies from above and from below around that. If you are of a Christian mindset, that would be where the Christ consciousness would be held. And then looking at, there's a particular line between the red and the blue. And I just wanted to say that that red and the blue, in addition to that yellow, that is where the strength card lies. So the energy between the pillar of mercy on the right, which is Hesed over here, and that blue is Hesed, or mercy, compassion, benevolence, these kinds of qualities. And then on the left, we see Gevura, which is harshness, which is energy, which is Mars. So we have on the we have these two very strong energies of harshness and mercy. Those energies held together are held in the strength card. The pathway between those is the strength card. And so think of it like the barbell of the strength card is managing those two aspects of our consciousness, and sitting in between those is that golden sky, that golden thing. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, that each of the tarot card majors has a pathway between these sephirot that shows an aspect of its challenges, its lessons, etc. Let's go ahead and take a look back again now at the reading we're going to do with Piper. And here that is. And what we're going to do, Piper, is we're going to pick an issue for you, which is going to be that top middle. And then we'll maybe you can tell us what you want to look at, or maybe we're going to see what the cards are going to tell us. You'll let us know in a moment.
Okay.
And then on the bottom, we're going to do a timeline. It's we're going to look at something. It's a vignette. It's either that vignette is anchored now, and we're looking at past, present, future, or maybe we're looking at something that's been important for you, and this is kind of a storyline of it, and you're still experiencing it, but it already happened, but it's still influencing your life. And so as such, there's ways to approach it or deal with it. And there's a cautionary way on that top left with the advice caution card, and then a way that's going to be more supportive on the right with the supportive card. And then at the end, we'll pick a 7th card to give us some additional perspective to consider. And that's what the reading is. So what questions might you have at this point, Miss Piper?
I don't think I have any questions. I'm just so excited to see how this kind of all flows and comes together.
It does. It is a lot of fun. I'm excited too. So Kefri, you can see he's been shuffling and feeling the vibe. So he's going to talk you through this process now. So I will hand off to Kefri.
Thank you, Alison. And Piper, I am shuffling, and you say stop where you want the stop to be.
Okay. Stop.
There. And how many times do you want to cut the deck if you want to cut the deck?
3 times.
3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And then we start with the middle card in the top row, and that is the subject card. And that is the 6 of Wands, actually. There we have it. And then we go on the bottom row and we look at the past. And that is the 7 of Swords. And we look at the next, the middle card in the bottom row, and that is the present card. And that is the Knight of Pentacles. And then we look at the card further to the right in the bottom row, and that is the future card. And that is the Wheel of Fortune. Then we go on the top row in the left position, and that is the cautionary card, what not to do. And this card is the Chariot. Then we go to the other side, the right side, and that card is the advice card, what is good to do. And that is the Strength card, actually. So there you have the reading. We wait with the 7th card for now.
Very cool. So there was our Strength card in the advice position. So at least we've had an unpacking of that card's meaning. I'm going to read this as a business, as a kind of endeavor reading. That's the way it seems to me, but it may also play out in other areas, and Kefri may have some other aspects. By the way, we did show, and Kefri, would you mind showing the Tree of Life again, just briefly before we get into this? And because we have 2 majors, Piper, and if you see Kefri slightly in his work mode, it's because each of the major arcana, actually, we have 3, so he's going to be busy, and I'm going to have to call his name to prompt him to put up the cards too, because he's doing this zoom process where each of the majors, and we have the Chariot, we have the Wheel, we have the Strength card, is connected to a Hebrew letter, and if we and that Hebrew letter will have its original mystical meaning. But then we also have the idea that you could string together right to left or left to right, or up, down, however you want to look at it this way, those letters, and then they make words. And those words often have relevance to the meaning and so to the reading itself. And so he'll be looking up some of those things as I'm doing my segment here. And then as we look at the Tree of Life here, Kefri, would you mind putting up that other image that we saw before? On this one, we can see how each of those pathways has a major arcana, right? And so that's this little teaching diagram. And then that other diagram that we have, which is that flower of life one, shows us those 4 worlds. And we had connected those 4 worlds. And you can kind of see, there's chroma theory on this as well. You can take a look at the top world, which is the world of Atsiluth, which is the world of the wands, where we can't really access it except by receiving from it. And that is this upper world of Atsiluth, which is white, gray, and black. And then we also have the world below, the world of, is it Bria? I'm getting it wrong here.
Yeah, it's Bria.
It's Bria, and that is the world then with these primary colors. And then we have the world of Yetzira, which is down, and that has our secondary colors. And then we have down where we are, and that's where we are in the world of Asiya, where Malkuth, this Sephira is, with the 4 worlds down there, with our 4 worlds, with the elements that we have, for example. And that's where the shades are. When the introduction of the color black down here in those colors is where we get the shades down there. So each of these worlds is represented. So I kind of read, when I read the cards, I kind of read from the bottom. I read from, in Malkuth, like our day-to-day life and our kind of psychology. And then when Kefri comes in, he's kind of going to read at the emotional and spiritual level and see how these things are playing, how this pattern of cards would be playing out in our spiritual development. So you have we're kind of stacking it up and giving you a little Kabbalistic experience here is our intention. Okay. So that's the way we're going to approach this right now. So we're going back to the reading here and back to, oops, that was the reading. Let's put it back there. And would you mind putting up the 6 of Wands, please?
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at right now. And that's you feeling and hopefully being triumphant in this direction that you're headed. And so there's this sense of victory. This card is called Victory. And so there's this sense of like, okay, now it's like that you have found your niche, your the thing that motivates you to keep going is and you're the thing that you can captain, shall we say, is this direction. And so as we notice that yellow color card that we focused on so much, the yellow Sephira in the trio that's in that place of balance, we can see that it is right in the middle. And that 6, therefore the number 6, is a place of balance in the tarot. It's a pivot. There you go. There's your pivot. And so it is the place of pivot and balance in the card. It's the place of Christ consciousness. It's the place where the Star of David comes together, and that would be in the middle of it, the 6th, a 6-pointed star, if you will. So this idea of balance, strength, and forward movement of inspiration is really key in here. Now, your little horsey who's carrying you may indicate some of your doubts. Are you sure? Is this really the way we're going? Is this really going to work? And he's covered in the green. And so the green is that sense of hope. It's that sense of that there is aliveness to it. And so even though that might trip up the horse every once in a while, it still is what you are cloaking yourself with as you move toward victory, and what your vehicle is cloaked. Your vehicle is cloaked with vitality, and you are cloaked with an earthly tinged martial energy. Speaking of astrology, the sense of Mars with that tinge of black to it is that brown color of the cloak. And again, the wreath of victory. And so there's a great deal of vitality in your endeavor right now, and a sense of relief, I'm going to say, and victory, that you kind of feel like, oh my God, finally I have a sense of direction. And so as we look at this timeline on the bottom, let's take a look at the 7 of Swords first. And I think that in the past, there's been this sense of compromise, that there was a sense of that you were feeling somehow that you weren't doing all that you could do, or what you were doing was somehow not, there was this sense of like settling, or compromise, or maybe this is you having to leave a prior thing that you were doing that could have been, would have been, should have been, could have, all that kind of regretsy kind of thing. Then you had to leave some stuff on the table in order to become free. And in order for it to not become an all-out war, because another aspect of this card is that he's taking away the weapons so that people don't kill each other in the morning. And so in this way, have you escaped, or had you escaped from your prior commitment, your prior who owned you, your prior, the thing that you were going to get into that you thought, maybe I'm not going to get into this as it's really not going to pay off. So I'm just going to cut my losses now and get away clean. So, and that it could be a divorce. It could be an old job. It could be any number of things where you thought, let me just get out of Dodge right now in order for my sanity to stay intact, in order for my wholeness to not be further sliced, shall we say. And then it came time to do work, and that can feel slow. Let's take a look at that Knight of Pentacles. And so now, or in either this trajectory is either anchored in the now, and I don't know, or this is how it's been. It kind of can go either way with the way the cards are moving here. But basically that you have hunkered down now to put in the work that has to be done in order to see this come to fruition. And at this point, as you look at that field, you can kind of see that it is, and there's the cloak. So the same cloak that was cloaking the white horse is now also under you in this dark horse, who is patiently, who is strong, and you're the sturdy horseman up there, girding your loins, shall we say, for this journey as you move forward, and as you invest your energies and your time into this project in order for it to come to fruition. So this crop that you are now planting, that you are now moving forward, is in the stages of almost there. So if you think of there's a page, which is the notion, the knight, which is moving it, and in the earth plane, the movement is slow. And then you have the queen, which is the ownership, and then the king, which is kind of a mastery. And so you're now in the moving forward. So you're moving your business forward. It might feel really slow. So take heart. It is moving. And if you look up to that chariot, the recommendation against is trying to push it too hard, trying to move it too fast. And so it may very well be recommended that you be in this slow stage right now in order to really think of it like a wave. And I don't know, have you traveled to the West Coast at all?
Yeah, my brother lives in San Diego, so I'm there a lot. Yeah.
With the differences between like East Coast beaches and West Coast beaches. And East Coast beaches are kind of, the Atlantic seems to kind of really, it's very lappy and gentle and everything, at least the ones that I've seen. But when you get out here, it's like, oh my God, it's not very Pacific, because it takes a lot of energy as those waves drive back. And then if the tide is up, they're big. They're 6, 7, 8 feet tall, those waves coming forward 2 meters sometimes. So it's pretty impressive, the power of the ocean, and you can't force it. You can't make a wave where there isn't the force. And so at this point, I would say you are in that kind of build-up phase, and it would be not advised right now. Let's go ahead and put up that chariot card, Kefri, if you don't mind. I'm jumping out of order here, but just don't feel discouraged by how slow things are going right now. Notice that the cards are recommending against trying to lurch forward and move out of where you are right now. So there's the notion, and we can come back to this card in a moment, but let's come back to that Knight of Pentacles. There's this notion that currently, or in this stage of development, that stillness or that slowness has been necessary for this to grow. And then the future card, or perhaps the fruition card right now, Kefri, that we're looking at, is that Wheel of Fortune. And in the Wheel of Fortune, that follows the Knight of Pentacles. Perhaps that's where you're at right now. I'm getting the feeling right now is that you're in this phase where you don't know what's going to happen. You've kind of spun the wheel and round she goes, and where she stops, no one knows. And we can unpack this card a little bit, but let's just get to some meanings for a brief moment. It seems cloudy, but it is spinning, and you are learning a huge amount. Look how each of those signs of the zodiac are with books in hand, which is different from the triumphant card of the world that we'll see in a moment, just as a reference card, because these are still in the learning phase. And so the learning is still outside of them, shall we say. So for you, the learning is still not quite integrated yet. And that's part of this Knight of Pentacles process, is the integration of the learning. As we look at these central figures who are outside of the clouds, but on the wheel, which itself has alchemy involved with those things crossing the center wheel, we can see the letters, which if we read them clockwise, say tarot. If we read them counterclockwise, or we could say rota, like a wheel, tarot. We could also look at it counterclockwise and see Torah, like lessons and like the book. We could also see the Yod, He, Vav, He is the Hebrew letters for the name of God, the unnameable God, are there on the circle as well. So the all is represented here. And then the unrepresented thing here is you, as you have spun the wheel, as you have, and that the hermit is the one who spins the wheel, as you in your solitude have made this decision for your particular pathway. The hermit, being the mystical name of the hermit, is the hand. He's number 9 before the 10. Why am I referencing the hermit? You might be asking yourself. But the hermit turns the wheel, whereas this one, the wheel is turning itself. So you are both kind of subject to how it turns, but you yourself in your decision, back in that 7 of Swords, to make this decision for yourself, turn the wheel for yourself. And now where it stops is going to be where you have, that's where you have placed your bet, shall we say. And that's what you're in the process in right now. But the name of that card that is our significator, remember, is victory. So do take heart, even as things seem very cloudy and mysterious now as to how they're going to play out. I think it's going to play out to your favor with the Wheel of Fortune, which does tend to indicate fortune. And then as we look at the recommendations here, let's again look at that Chariot card. So this is not the time to make the big move. This is the time to grow your crop, see it come to fruition, stock it. So you may need to invest in yourself a bit so that you have something to move forward with when you do. But let's look at the nature. So what we know is, in terms of the recommendation against, is that you shouldn't be marshaling your forces right now and rolling forward quite yet. That wand of victory that we see there is the same one that is in the victory, or the world card, which I intimated before. So we'll look at that in a moment. But just notice that the crystal wand that's held by this Chariot is the same one that's held by that Magician in card number 1. But he doesn't have 2, and he doesn't yet have reins on these horses. And notice, by the way, that he isn't even a whole person. He's actually growing out of the Chariot. And so you are still discovering what is within, shall we say, in order for you to roll forward with it. And that's part of the process of the Strength card, because ultimately that card that and Kefri, we're going to put up that Strength card now, that character that your husband was playing is the aspect of yourself, those passions, those strengths, those energies that are the recommendation for you to do right now is to really understand yourself, and really, I would say, perhaps even there's a thing out there called Strengths Quest, which is like one of those self-tests that you do. It's kind of like a Myers-Briggs self-assessment. You could probably do the Myers-Briggs for free or something like that. But basically, any kind of a strengths assessment might be helpful for you right now, so that, and the point of that book in team building, for example, is that you do not try to build up where people are weak, but you rather play to their strengths and let the strengths carry where they can. And then you can find other people to play to your weaknesses. And so in this case, I would say really discover and see how you can harness the power of your true strengths. And this may indeed play to the strengths of your enjoyment of spotlight, like a Leo rising would do, for example, and maybe that's what you play to, or whatever are the other things that in your large array of strengths that you have in your different expertises that you have built over the years from those swords, the swords that you have. So going back to that 7 of Swords, Kefri, look real quick at that. That's in your past. So you have, as you have traveled through, and let's look at the bottom of that card, as you have moved through the stage of your life, as you have gone through the stages of your life, or the literal stage, all of life is a stage, as you have done that, you have taken the good stuff with you. As you have moved through the events, the circus of your life, if you will, take a look at those tents, as you have gone, as you have made progress, and as you look back, you can rest assured that you have distilled the best of what you have been able to. And so don't look back in regret, rather look back in relief that you are no longer kind of there, even though you don't know exactly where you are yet now with this Wheel of Fortune. You have taken the best of what you've had access to. And that's the recommendation of this strength card, is maybe to, how people do those lateral strengths assessments where you just go back and you start listing everything you've done you may have done that already, but if you haven't done, do it now or do it again, to really list all the different things that you could teach, that you can show people, that you have experienced, that you are able to do. And it could be down to like baking bread, or I don't know, sewing a dress or something along those lines. Skills that you have that you don't really necessarily count among your marketable skills, the sequential nature of sewing a dress, or the idea that you're putting the wrong sides together in order to achieve the right side result. I don't know if this makes sense to you, if you sew anything, but
it does, yeah.
Good. But my strength is language, and so the words that come, I just let them flow. So the idea that wrong sides together makes the right side garment is perhaps a good analogy for your clients. For example, that this might feel wrong to do right now, but ultimately it's going to give you the finished product that you want. Something along those lines. Whatever analogies or realities that you have experienced that are relevant to the needs of your clients, or the needs of your own self as your own client, to yourself as you coach yourself to success, is going to not depend, but it will certainly take advantage of all of the skills that you have gathered heretofore. And let's go back to that strengths card, please, Kefri. And just remember that you're doing this out of a sense of virtue and generosity, that you will be making money, but you're going to be making more money for your clients. And so no matter how much you charge, they'll be making more. And so feel good about it, as well as understanding that the stronger, as you have the guts to do things, those guts are going to be part of your repertoire as well. And so it's going to be helpful for you to do those pushing the envelopes, bravery moves for yourself right now, in order to keep your Wheel of Fortune spinning, or to get it to stop where you want it to stop in terms of your goals. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm seeing in this reading, as I read it as a kind of professional reading. And then there may be other dimensions to this reading that Kefri will be sharing. So I will hand off now. Piper, you're welcome, by the way, to say whatever you'd like to say at whatever given point, but this is a bit of a fire hose. And so that's another aspect of it as well. So this is a natural point if you want to say something, or you can just keep listening as Kefri does his thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is amazing and so spot on. I was just thinking in my mind, like, oh, I'm in this interesting position in my business where I just don't know the shape of it going forward. And so all of this feels very relevant and very true, and so validating for the things that I've been thinking about.
I'm glad to hear it. And then let's see how these same cards and patterns would then play out, and what that might mean on the internal planes, shall we say.
Thank you, Alison. I will connect to a bit what Alison has said also here, but you have already.
I'm going to take you out of your reverie for just a moment. I apologize. Just remember to hit that right click button so we can see the cards you're talking about.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Alison. I am looking at the 6 of Wands here, and that card is actually in the position of the yellow energy we saw in the Kabbalistic tree of life, but it's a higher energy. And I read this like, it's like you have the business idea, you have everything you want to do, and so on, but it's on a higher plane, and you cannot really take it down into what should we say, a concrete structure actually, and that is a difficulty for you at this moment, and there is something there that you don't want to present it either, because you are a bit afraid, and that has happened, I think, that people have taken your ideas and have developed them on themselves and called them their own and so on, and that is probably the 7 of Swords here that is indicating that. And the advice now, as I see it in the present, and probably you are doing it also, is like with that Knight of Pentacles, that you should sow several seeds actually, because some of them will grow and some of them will not grow, but that doesn't hinder that you should sow them, because you should be on a various area of field, so to speak, and you shouldn't close you in at this moment actually and see that, oh, this is the area I want to work in and only that area. No, please don't do that at this moment. Just experiment and see what can come out of it, and be open to other areas also. And that is the Wheel of Fortune here, that when you do that, and I think you have started in doing it, or you are thinking of it at least, when you do that, that Wheel of Fortune will start to rotate actually. And there will be a development in this. And there will be a development that brings in new energies also. And as Alison also have said before, look at all the books here with all those biblical creatures and gestalts. They are reading, and it's a message here, I think, that look in different culture, look at different tools, look at different things and learn from them. But there is also this cautionary card that says, yeah, please look, but don't limit yourself to what you think should be for you now, because you will go the wrong way if you do that and try to chisel out your area where you should be working, because you should be open at this moment for all the areas that are connected to your basic idea for the business actually. And that is the advice card here also, the Strength card. If you do this, you will get a feeling of strength, and you will get more balance into this victory that you already have achieved actually, but on the higher plane. And that will be easier to bring it down, because we have talked about this card already. The lady is probably the divine energy, and the lion is the sun. And the sun is in that balancing spot of the tree of life. And the card here also, the 6 of wands, are also in that spot, but it's in a higher energy, and you need to bring that energy down so you can concretize it and do something of it as a structure or a concept or something that is unique for you actually. and that is very easy to see in this group of cards, I think. And as Alison already have been into, we have 3 major arcana cards here also, and there is actually some interesting words here also that we can look at. And if we look at what I call the vibration that goes from the upper of this reading, that will be the strength, the chariot, and the wheel of fortune. We have a very interesting word there, and that is lol, laughing out loud, actually. And it's like that is what you get from a higher sphere or a higher divine energy, I would say, that please go for it, do it, do it. You are on the right path, you are on the right way. And if we go in the other direction, from the down direction to the up direction, probably how you are looking for help from something higher or from your inner power or something. There is a group of words here, and one is as a needle, and one is a canine thought, or an incisor thought, and a cutting chisel. And I am reading this like, please be open to things that you perhaps not have totally faith in today. Test them, use them, and see if they will do something that you are not prepared for. Because there can be things that you are missing by being a bit of overcritical, that says that, oh, I can't do that because that will only take time and will not give me anything. So that's important. And there is also another word here, and if you take the cards and put them in other directions, constellations, because we can get 6 different word groups with 3 major arcana cards, actually, because we have 3 Hebrew letters here, and one of them is chastised. And I think that is what you are chastising yourself a bit too much sometimes, and you try to define this area that I was talking about, that you shouldn't define it now. And that is the chariot card, actually, because the cautionary card here, because you see that area here on his breast, on the square here, actually, and it isn't time to square in this idea yet, actually. And another word is connected to the strength card, I think, because it is as steel. So you have to be strong in this. You have to be stubborn also, and test. Trial and error, I think, is the solution to find the answer to what you can fill this beautiful idea that you have, actually. And also there is an interesting word here that is hecht, and that is the horizontal bars when there is a gymnast doing the rotating, actually. And if we see that, we know that it is at least 2 hechts or 3 hechts, and we also know that this gymnast has to lose the grip and fly in the air to the next rod. And that is also for you. Please test different things and don't be afraid to lose contact with your original intention and so on, because it's just a test, actually. And the last one is you cut. And that is cut out things and look at them and see what you can do with them. And there is also a deeper thing here with that hecht, because that can also mean something else in the Hebrew language. And and it takes us also to a fish. And I think also, don't be afraid for mysticism here. Look in the spiritual field and see what powers is in hide there, and don't be afraid of it. Don't combine it with religion, because it is something else. It's no dogmas and everything. And feel free to experiment with it. And the tarot card, for example, is a tool that you can use. Astrology, we have been talking about numerology, and there are numerous ways you can explore this field actually. And please do that, because the result will be good actually. And with that, we will draw the seventh card, and that is the Page of Swords actually. So here we have the Page of Swords.
Interesting. And that considering that it seemed to be landing with you, the idea that other people had taken your ideas and had run with them before you had run with them and things like that. And I don't know if that is the case, but that might also reinforce the idea of being right now in a kind of scouting, stealth, investigating. This is the typical spy card. So basically the idea is you're in a learning phase right now. You're in a victorious phase, but it's a learning phase where you're investigating all kinds of different things, and you don't have to talk about it with everybody because you're compiling your advanced information, you know? And so look at all the air symbols that we see in here. So this is you're being on the ground. Is this Earth of Air, Kefri, I believe, the Page of Swords is and
it's the Earth of Air, yeah.
Earth of Air. And so his feet are on the ground, but his mind is in the air, and the air being ideas, the air being communication, the air being thoughts. And so he's got the sword, which is the original idea. He's got a kind of directionality, and yet there's a lean and there's a look. And so there's this idea of multiple directions potential, and the idea of looking around you to see what the threats are, what the strengths are. You know, those old SWOT charts that we would do in meetings. It was like, what's your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, you know, your threats and all that kind of stuff. But all of that is legit. You know, that's part of the learning process. It's part of the analytical process, as well as part of your holistic process, or your more synthetic process of, not synthetic artificial, but synthetic meaning bringing together all of the different elements that you have experienced and who you are, synthesizing all of those elements, but really getting knowledge. And so the Wheel of Fortune was in your future card. The Strength card is that snake. Snake is about wisdom, you know. By the way, the Strength card, the secret name of that Hebrew letter is snake. And then the one on the Chariot was fenced in area, and that's represented by the little thing here. And so the idea that you are not advised right now to fence in your area, but rather to spiral and to expand and to move and be wise like a serpent, rather than limiting yourself. And then the Wheel of Fortune then, is that the head? Is that the Kopf?
No, it's a palm.
It's a palm. Okay, so that's the so it is in your hands, shall we say, to learn more, to gather more information, to keep it to yourself for the time being as you do this synthesizing process, because no one else is going to come up with the same kind of recipe as you, using all these different component parts. And that is going to be your secret sauce. Shall we, use all the metaphors here? But this is your information gathering period, where you are really surveying the landscape for what you're going to be doing, with your swords that you have gathered, with this crop and idea and direction that you have determined for yourself, but not so tightly that you exclude other ideas that will come in as you are surveying the landscape. So don't get so set in your ways and so determined that this is your thing, that other things can't become apparent to you, because it's like that reticular activating system where you have to kind of be looking, always keep your eyes open, always instruct yourself to notice what's going to be helpful for you. So just give yourself an instruction to, may I notice today everything that's going to be helpful for me, and just put yourself on notice, literally, to do that. And as I say that, I'm going to do that for myself as well, because all of us are on a path to figure this out and to see how we can not only do a business for ourselves and an endeavor, a life work for ourselves, which is satisfying, but that also gives back, that also serves others. And that's a kind of alchemy that we want to achieve for ourselves and for others. And that's a altruistic mission. And so, but there's nothing that says that an altruistic mission must impoverish you, shall we say. So how might those things work together? And so these are the questions. And so just opening, how can I move forward in my own life, as well as move others forward in their lives in a way that is most productive for all of us? Opening yourself to that question and saying, and help me to be aware when those answers present themselves, will help you. It will help your mind to just get that instruction. And so that's what I see from this Page of Swords. And there are, of course, other meanings to it. Kefri, what do you see here?
I see basically the same as you, Alison, but this card also has to do with smell, actually. And you should smell in what feels right, actually. And this page is, he's waiting for some news, actually. And the news here, I believe, is coming from that Knight of Pentacles, because the page and the knight is a pair, because the page learn from the knight, actually, to be a knight. And the Knight of Pentacles, we were saying, please sow several seeds, because some of them will grow up and some will not. And it could be that wait for what you start and see what gives something, and then feel intuitively what is the right thing to go on, actually. And this page also is standing on a higher ground, so he has a view of the full landscape. And that could also be a clue here, that look into what others have done, basically in the same field that you want to be working, and see if you can do it in another way, like a sort of a diversification, and to present something new, because that is in here also. Thank you.
This is so interesting. And so everything has been completely spot on and feels like very resonant to, like I said before, like the things that I've been thinking about and how I've been thinking about them and where I've sort of gotten stuck. So yeah, this is fascinating.
So this is the tarot flow, and this is what you signed up for. So I hope it's been useful for you. Might there be any other questions or things that you want to consider here? And it's been such a fire hose, and of course you have the recording so that you can listen to it again. Thank you.
I was like scribbling down notes, because I think, for me, the thing that I always struggle with naturally is I like taking action. I like doing things.
Yeah.
And I can be like very stubborn. Like if I do X, expecting Y outcome. And then with other things, I can be very like open and exploratory. Like I'm just going to try a thing and I don't really know what's going to happen. And I'm completely open to that. And it feels like a very interesting time period where I'm stuck between the two. And I'm not entirely sure, which actions to take. And I have been trying to like figure this high level thing out down to like this concrete thing of like how I say it and what's the vehicle for it and how does it look and all of these like nitty gritty details, which has just felt like a really mentally arduous task. And what I'm hearing from you is to just pause, maybe follow more intuitive hits out of curiosity, like sowing sort of different seeds and being open without that expectation of this has to equal this, and just be like more open, more creative, more curious and experimental, and then maybe take stock, 3, 6, 12 months down the road, like what happened, what took root, what sprouted, and then maybe developing more, concrete ideas, like letting that um, trickle down and sort of develop for me instead of me feeling like I have to push an idea through. I kept imagining, do you remember those Play-Doh spaghetti factories where you like cram the Play-Doh in and you spin the wheel and out shoots all of these perfect little
This is
strands?
PIPER and the
That's what it
potato
feels like
roaster,
right
yeah.
now.
Well, and that's kind of the idea of forcing it, and then also fragmenting yourself. So it's an interesting analogy. So that if you force yourself, you're going to be fragmenting yourself into a whole bunch of different kind of individual pieces where in fact you may want to be glomming yourself into one out of these other pieces, and so that you have a stronger thing. And so the idea that you're in an experimental phase right now, I think, is a good mental frame, so that you can just see what is the feedback, and just and like a researcher, it's just like, let's see what happens now, and or like a kid, rather than be so adult. Maybe
Yeah.
you can back off of this a little bit and say, how can I take a very playful approach to this and just see what happens? Like I was talking about my brother. My brother is a wonderful person, and he went through some interesting phases in life. And some people could say, oh my God, that's all reprehensible. But in fact, it was his experimental phase. He could not live his life only believing what other people told him about stuff. He had to experience it. And so by experiencing it, he could then operate on his own judgment and experience rather than what other people had told him. And perhaps that's the same way for you, in that you're going to have to see how things work for yourself without instead of incorporating it on faith and then just operating as if you're going to have to test things. And in this way, be a skeptic in that you want to see how it works, but be open to what those results are. Don't be so skeptical that you've already concluded that it won't. So let your skepticism live at the back end on the feedback, so that you can test whether that feedback fits what you want to do or not. Because something's going to happen regardless. You just have to decide whether that's fits what you want to do or not, and then make your kind of directional decisions from those things. But you don't have to decide. It's kind of like driving a car and locking in a steering wheel saying, I'm only going here. But if you were like one tick off, you're going to be off the road in about a quarter mile. You have to keep adjusting as you go. So you can't. And then if somebody stopped before you, you got to get out of that lane.
Right.
Right. And so it's a silly analogy, but it's not irrelevant for the idea of a life path. And of taking feedback as you go and not pre-deciding what your destination is, when in fact that destination might have a big bottleneck or a big accident, or that may just be a place where when you get there, you're like, well, I didn't really even want to go here, and maybe avoid having to have that circumstance by being more flexible on the road and being more open to what presents itself to you on the road, rather than deciding your destination and locking it down in the plan. Let's look at the Knight of Swords just real quickly as an example of when you get too attached to the plan.
One moment.
So that's the next one on from the page, by the way. So the page is your overall card right now, which is a learning card, whereas the Knight is moving those ideas forward. And even the horse is like, oh my God, what are we doing? And so it's important not to go off and running with things before their time, before you've had a chance to digest them, or let's go back to that page now, without a chance to observe how those impact your particular landscape. Before you start off and running with it, watch it for a while and see, does it fit? Chew on it for a while. Do you like that taste, or do you want to spit it out before you actually digest it all the way through? So I'm using lots of analogies here, but maybe that's a good one for you. Before you actually swallow and have to have it affect your entire organism, taste it for a while and then decide whether you want to swallow or whether you want to spit it out. And so that, and then a smell. will also give you the sense of, do I like, okay. And then that idea of sniffing out the opportunities, also sniffing out the stinkers.
Yeah.
Because there's clients who you're not going to want to work with, who are going to be all over you, and then maybe even asking you for everything for free. This is the impression I get, is people who want they want a lot from you because you got so much to give, and you want to give, and so you do give, and then all of a sudden they take and they never give back, and that's not a good feeling. And I have a feeling you've been through that before, and so in that way, it's best to kind of keep it to yourself for a while until you figure out what you're going to do with it. Because excitement when sometimes we share too much, and then people are all too willing to just steal, and that's not cool. So self-protection that has to happen, even though it may be in your nature to just give it all to everybody who wants it. It might be necessary for you to guard for a little bit, or just be discerning. Discernment is a smell kind of thing too. Like you sniff something in the fridge. Can I eat this? No. Yeah.
I had someone do some human design readings for me, and
I've heard about that a lot, and I think I know a lot about it without knowing the title.
Right, exactly. No, I mean, there's so much crossover and relevancy here, and like one thing that comes up for me is like to trust my sense of smell. Like I can literally smell a rat, so to speak.
Literally,
and it's so interesting. Like there's times, people, environments where like the smell is off. And I mean, naturally, like we don't want to be around things that don't smell good, but it almost like it raises my hackles. It's not just like, oh, this place smells bad. It's like something is wrong here.
Right, exactly. And you must trust your intuition. And that's the strength of the wands. And that's the strength, that's the card that you came in with. Let's also notice, by the way, in this reading that it is over proportionally major. So that normally it's like 2 or 3 to 1 minors to majors in the tarot, but you have in 7 cards, you've got 3 majors, which is closer to 50%. And so that's an over proportion of majors, which means that this is representing a big deal for you. And this is a large part of who you are and your identity. And it's important for you to honor and respect your faculties and your intuition. So when it doesn't smell right, get out of it. Get out of there. Take your leave. Thank you. Not for me. Bye.
Yeah.
And time wise, allow yourself to experiment and sow seeds for 6 months from now, and start to slim it in and use discernment in about 8 months, I would say, and await some result in about 10 months, and see if there will be some news on the 10th month that you don't have now, because I think that will come. And in 11 months, I think you have a pretty good business concept that is unique for you, actually. That is also here.
And all those can be kind of heartbreak long timelines, but think how fast time goes.
It really does. It doesn't feel long to me. I'm just like, oh, okay, that feels normal. Yeah. That feels doable.
Right, exactly. I mean, that 4 years have passed since we started doing these little tarot groups with Kefri and myself and the other 5-6 people. It's shocking to me that much time has passed, that COVID has been so long ago, for example. So time does go quickly. I want to thank you, Piper, for being with us today on this Tarot Flow show. What else might you want to comment or talk about at this point?
I mean, this has been fantastic. And again, so much has resonated. I thought it was particularly interesting, like unpacking the Knight of Pentacles and really feeling like, to your point, yeah, it's wild that it's already 2024 and COVID still feels like really not that far away. 2020 feels like yesterday. And at the same time, it has felt like a little bit of a slog, like, in the context of what we're talking about here, this is very much like an important kind of business related reading for me. And it has felt like a slog for the last 4 years, and a lot of trudging and thinking, and am I in the right place? And what am I doing? And, going back to the 7 of Swords, I think is, taking stock and that whole through line to the Wheel of Fortune has been validating and illuminating. Like, okay, there's a lot to take stock of and look back through, and the trudging hasn't been for naught. And in fact, has probably encouraged me, now that I'm in my 40s, to embrace more patience. And yeah, this has been fascinating. Thank you so
Well,
much.
take it from someone in her 60s who could be your mama that yes, patience is a good thing.
Yeah.
And time goes really fast. It's pretty crazy. And then also recognize that kind of like in any plant, you can't really see what's going on as it's putting roots down under the soil. But that's required, and you cannot do, and nothing will grow unless there is some way to access what is unconscious or underground or what has been developed so far. So though it feels like a slog and it feels like nothing's going on, a lot is going on. Other people have even noticed it too, and you're anxious about it, but you can't hurry love, as they say. You can't hurry nature, and you can't yell at the plants to make them grow faster. And so avoid yelling at the plants and just stay with your nose to the wind and instruct yourself to notice everything that's going to help develop your business for yourself and for those you serve, so that you do notice them and you do sniff them out and you do take what is relevant for you and leave behind what is not. That's another aspect of that Seven of Swords. Not all ideas are for you. And then I mentioned the World card a couple of times. Let's go ahead and wind up this reading with the World card in that focus position, just to see what I was talking about. And that is that we have now double wands in the hands. And so notice the single wand in the hand of the magician at the beginning, and that Chariot card, he's got a single wand. Now this triumphant figure here has the double wands. Those Wheel of Fortune figures who were learning before are now just the head. So all of that learning has now been incorporated into this identity. There's your Leo, your Taurus, your Aquarius, and your Scorpio. Scorpio is a higher aspect of that snake. The Leo, the lion, is down there in the corner as well. And so you've got all of these significant anchor points on the zodiac. Those are the fixed signs of the zodiac, there to balance you and fix this victory. By the way, that Six of Wands card is called victory. So take heart that you are victorious, but you're kind of in the middle, shall we say, the 10 of the 22, the 8, 9, 10 of the 22 in this process, shall we say, of victory, of accomplishing your larger aim, of really being in this portal to the next phase. And so you're in the middle of this, we talked about that wave. And so it's very similar to this root building process. Is the similar process to that energy building in the waves, where it looks like it's going backwards, but you can already feel by looking at it the power that's about to come forward. And that's kind of where you're at right now. Feels like you're not moving, and yet look how much power is being developed. And that's that Strengths card as well.
Oh, that gave me chills. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I want to thank you for being here with us. You've been with us for more than an hour, and it's our pleasure to have you. You're welcome back anytime for a follow-up. And tell your friends, and then come on down to ALISONPickering.com. Get on the mailing list and on the groups and all that good stuff, so that if you would like to participate in the Academy, you can do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alison. I will. And thank you, Jeffrey.
We'll talk business at some point and all that good stuff, because we have a lot of things planned ourselves. Wonderful. All right. So thank you, Piper, for being with us. Thank you, Kefri Scarabus, for sharing your wisdom, as always, on the Tarot Flow Show. ALISONPickering.com. There's a book the show link on there. So come on down, and we'll see you soon. And thank you, everybody, for being with us on the Tarot Flow Show. See you soon.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.